Hello BookTube, it's Louise from the BigHaired Bookworm. How are you doing today? Are you having a nice day? Did you bring some tea? I've got some water. Haven't got any cake. I did say I was going to get cake. I'll get cake. The sun's come out, so I'm slightly glary on one side. So I'll hold a book there and it'll be fine. We'll just work with it. So I'm here today with the books that I read this month. I actually read far more than I thought I was going to. The first 6 I've already shown you, so we'll go through those really quickly. So this was the first audiobook that I listened to, Agatha Christie, A Murder is Announced, and the second one is Agatha Christie, The Mirror Cracked from Side to Side. They're both Miss Marple mysteries, and they're both narrated by Joan Hickson, and I thoroughly enjoyed every moment of both. Then I was reading Outrage by Vincent Bugliosi. Oh, murdered that every time. This is the 5 reasons why O.J. Simpson got away with murder. It's brilliant. He's outraged. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Then I read The Poison Artist. I'm kind of trying to give myself a bit of shade here. I read The Poison Artist by Jonathan Moore. It's a serial killer whodunit thriller set in the San Francisco Bay Area. I loved it. My husband's reading it at the moment and he's not enjoying it as much as I did. He's wrong, of course. It is fabulous, but I suppose other opinions are available. Then I read, because I enjoyed that so much, here we are, that's better, a bit of shade, Jeffrey Deaver's The Sleeping Doll, and then Jeffrey Deaver's Roadside Crosses, which are Catherine Dance, who is a body language specialist in the California Bureau of Investigation. The first book is a book about cults. The second book is about internet bullying. So I really, really enjoyed those. I thought she was a fantastic character, Catherine Dance. Then I read Bound, which is a YA supernatural paranormal thriller about the Watchers, if you're interested in angel mythology. It's quite good. It's the first in the series. I enjoyed it. It didn't completely wow me, but it was okay. So, as I had read the first 2 Jeffrey Deavers when I was in the library, I spotted the third, so I got it. That's XO by Jeffrey Deaver. So, if Sleeping Doll was a hooray, this is glorious. If Roadside Crosses was a yes, it's quite good, I'm still enjoying it. XO was, oh, I just, it's stalkers, this face Catherine has to deal with this time. It's about a stalker of a country and western singer. Obviously Jeffrey Deaver is a big fan of country and western music, and he also has done a lot of research. And how do I know that? Because he tells me an awful lot about the country and western history and all the characters and what kind of life it is. As well as going into stalking, there is just not enough investigation, not enough body language. There are too many false finishes, which by about the 3rd one, I was irritated by. Not enough investigation. And if anybody reads this, the last scene, I mean, that was just rubbish. That was just, it made me cross. It actually made me cross. I was like, that is ridiculous. You've got this brilliant character and that's just silly. And there's nothing worse than ending like that, a book with that kind of emotion. So I was really not happy. I really went, with this one. The 3rd, Catherine Dance, which is good because I've bought the 4th. But I'll give it a go. I was really disappointed. Anyway, to that. Then I read Reasons to Stay Alive by Matt Haig. This is a memoir about depression and anxiety. This is the true story of how Matt Haig came through crisis, triumphed over a mental illness, depression and anxiety that almost destroyed him, and learned to live again. So here we are, the Reasons to Stay Alive. The first thing I would want to say is that I think it is profoundly brave, profoundly courageous that Matt Haig would write about this. It happened when he was 24. He's now late 30s. He is still not suffering, but he still lives with depression and anxiety. He manages it now. He's a successful novelist, but this is the first time he's actually written a memoir about it. It's short, it's accessible, it's 250 pages, but I mean, it's really big text. It's very, very short chapters. He is very clear about how he feels depression is not, I don't know what to say. It is accepted, but it's not something that you can pick yourself up from. You can't just pull your socks up. It's not being sad. It's not feeling low. And that is very true. And as somebody that hasn't experienced depression or anxiety to anything like this, I could completely understand how it would be awful for what you're going through, that when the bomb has gone off in your head in such a profound way, it would feel even more invalidating when people minimise your condition. However, I would say that that is not just about depression or anxiety or any condition. I believe it is part of the human condition that we experience, that feeling of separation, that we around us at times look and say, but nobody understands what I'm going through. Nobody understands how heartbroken or grief-stricken or upset or saddened or depressed or angry, how isolated I personally feel. I don't believe that just happens with depression. I believe that happens to everybody, and that is a common experience that we could all understand, that feeling of separateness. I also realised how much I don't believe that you are your thoughts. I have studied a lot of esoterica and gone through a lot of spiritual thinking, like Buddhism. Not that I am a Buddhist, but I'm beginning to understand an awful lot about Buddhism and Sikhism and Hinduism and Sufism and paganism. These are all parts of, there's a lot of people in the world that don't believe that you are your thoughts. And he at the end is even saying, oh no, well, we must, learn to meditate and separate ourselves from these thoughts. And yet you've spent 200 pages saying you are your thoughts and nobody understands me. And it just, I felt really uncomfortable about this book. The other thing I felt uncomfortable was that he chose not to use medication, and he seems very pleased that he chose not to medication and that he is ascribing not using it. And I can imagine if you're somebody that needed the medication or uses the medication, you could feel it could be yet another stab in your direction. And I just felt uncomfortable. I think it's incredibly brave of the man to have done this, and I feel very grateful that he did write this. I just, for a vast majority of the book, felt uncomfortable, and I could go on. I could literally go on. Luckily, I have my husband to go on at, and he has sat and listened to my rant about this book. However, I still think it was amazing that he did it, and I'm still very glad I read it. It did make me realise I had read another book about depression called Shoot the Damn Dog by Sally Brampton, which I have on my Kindle here. Can you see that? Shoot the Damn Dog by Sally Brampton. And that is a phenomenal book about depression. I read this a couple of years ago, and that was the book that made me go, oh, it's not about feeling sad, it's not about feeling low. And this covers all aspects of depression. I just think this is a most amazing book. So if you know anybody that has experienced depression, or you want to understand, you don't experience it yourself, and you really want to get to grips with how impactful it is, how every second is an all-body pain, then Sally Brampton's Shoot the Damn Dog, a memoir of depression. I just thought it was phenomenal, absolutely phenomenal. And I had hoped the Reasons to Stay Alive would be the same, and it wasn't, and so I was disappointed. However, I did end the month on a high. I ended up with The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers, which is literary science fiction and is phenomenal. I wouldn't change a sentence. I thought it was wonderful. This is her first novel. It's the first one in what she's calling the Wayfarers series. It could just be a standalone, although I'm so glad it isn't, because I want to spend more time with the characters. It's when Rosemary Harper joins the crew of the Wayfarer. She isn't expecting much. The Wayfarer, a patched up ship that's seen better days, offers her everything she could possibly want: a small quiet spot to call home for a while, adventure in far off corners of the galaxy, and distance from her troubled past. It's phenomenal. The list of characters, all the different beings, alien, human, etc., are glorious in their feathers, in their scales, in their sliminess, in their frailties, in their emotions. It's glorious. It really is. And It's a hopeful book. It's such a joyful book and a hopeful book. It's 400 pages long, and I didn't want it to end, and yet I couldn't put it down. I really, really highly recommended this. This is one of the few books that actually really reminds me of Ian M. Banks's Culture series. It had that completeness where the universe building, not world building, universe building feels right, and I completely recommend it. So I finished the month going, "Way, we love it!" So yeah, there we go. What a great month. I'm actually filming this a little bit earlier, so I've got a couple of more days in April, but I'm not going to be. I've picked up a really big book to read, so I won't be finishing that. So how are you? Have you had a good April? Good books? Good books were read? I'm very glad. Okay then, BookTube, it's been lovely to spend time with you, and I look forward to spending time with you again. Bye-bye.